It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledge it. Knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down. Tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want. We just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
You heard the man they call Biz, ladies and gentlemen. It's Topic Thunder. Welcome to the Internet Saloon, where myself, Mike Brooks, and that man to my forward or above me, actually, right now. Hi, hi, Ben.
Hey, what's up, Brooks?
That is Ben Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, and you are listening to Topic Thunder. If you're listening or watching Topic Thunder, you can only be in one place. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the world's most dangerous chat room, the Thunderdome. That away. That's like 3 weeks in a row, brother.
Exactly. I'm all again in my head. I was going point left.
There's a stage left, stage notes, like the tape on the floor.
Exactly. What they don't know is I have it on the top of my screen, and there's actually an arrow pointing that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, so yeah, welcome to Topic Thunder, where we consider ourselves the Internet Saloon, and we welcome you to pull up and find a nice, comfortable stool at the bar where Ben and I are about to pour you shots of information right for discussion. And folks, before we get started, let's give a shout out and some internet love to longtime OG listener participant in the Thunderdome, Courtney CJ Mino, and we want to give some love to Elwood, who's recovering from some major surgery, and just want to give our love, support, and hope that everything ends up okay, even though it might be a little bit weird, even though the cone of shame is upon poor Elwood right now. So yeah, and we've got
the chat was already blowing up. Dad F and Brooks is in the house.
Dad F and Brooks is in there. We got some.
Chris is here. Billy Wack is here off the bat. He's not going to miss anything this week. He missed Dr. Hugo Bada Bing and all the fun that was that last week. But yeah, he's here for all the fun this week.
Right, honorary doctorate from a city of Chicago College.
Yes,
never specify any A. There's many, just one of them. He went. He's got
doctorate in art history. Like,
right?
What the fuck does it? What does he do with that? Like,
who knows? But he's Dr. Hugo Bada Bing, honorary doctor.
But hey, I'd like to give you your diagnosis
with a pizza pie. And Bon Jordan and
Angelo.
Gigi. Angelo is in the house throwing up the thunderbolts. All right, folks. This sounds like a party. Hey, if you're paying attention, a couple of weeks ago, you know that Gigi and I went to Gigi's first pro wrestling event up in Wisconsin. No passports needed, even though it's a different country.
And feel like you should be a passport.
You should at least be able to declare certain things before you enter and exit the state.
Anyway, it is one of those honorary. You're right. It is an honorary doctor.
It is an honorary doctor. That's it. It's honorary. But what's not honorary is the New Glarus Brewing Company and their 2 women brew. So we're going to try this. Actually, Gigi recommended this. I think she drank the first 3. So I got the last one of the variety pack. So folks, we're going to crack a beer. We're going to have some lively discussion. We're going to talk about a lot.
I have some of my raspberry, blackberry sparkling water.
All right. Okay. So it's not black cherry this time?
Nope. This is another favorite. Raspberry, blackberry. Very good. Very tasty.
The sparkling water thing is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
The flavor, there's no doubt in my mind that in 7 years, we're going to find out that whatever they're flavoring with is a direct cause and agent of cancer. And it was just like, whoa, we didn't know. Asbestos, I don't know. Spartamine, oh, we didn't know. It killed a bunch of rats. We figured it'd be okay for people. Unlike this beer.
That will not kill anyone. Well,
slowly over time, which is the way you want to go. Right. As your liver gets roasted over a good 70 years cheers and here's to you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the most cleverly named segment we have. Headline. And as promised, folks, there is no proper segue into this. We're keeping track as best we can of the ongoings in Iran, even though it is increasingly difficult to kind of get a real firsthand story of what's going on. Our friends at The Guardian, because you sure can't find this anywhere on the first 2 or 3 pages of a U.S. news website. So
I've been paying attention to this, Brooks, since you brought this up. Like, nobody's talking about this. And what's the deal with it? Why is this not on anyone's radar? I don't understand. Like, this seems like something that we would want to be talking about. Like, this isn't something that seems like the media would want to, quote unquote, cover up or ignore. Why are we not getting anything?
There's 2 reasons, and I guess roundabout way we've kind of hinted and actually, well, we talked about both of these reasons, but never and had it this kind of narrow focused into this particular situation, right? One, they're not white people, right? So they don't get the benefit of the Ukraine thing, which we admitted we are absolutely guilty of on the show, making a much bigger deal of the not no much bigger deal than deserved, but focusing, right?
Iran is a boogeyman, right? And so if we could, they are on the other side. They are on the axis of evil, right? They're helping Russia, who is in the news now. So it seems they're adjacent to Russia. So it just seems like you would also include, because you want to just paint these guys as bad guys too, right?
Well, the other component to this is that it's affecting women.
Yeah.
Bottom line, like you're not hearing
So do you think in newsrooms they're going, well, we're actively not going to report on this because it involves women and it involves brown people?
I don't think they're saying
feel like that conversation
that. I don't think they're saying that. I think a problem, an infection in what people probably 35 and up. Sorry for the younger listeners, and we track huge across the younger demographic.
Yes, huge,
huge.
We are huge.
Huge. Is that we have a different perception of like news, right? We kind of grew up with newspapers, and forgive any real journalists out there, but we grew up with real journalists on our TVs, in our newspapers, in our magazines, periodicals, and eventually at the forefront and the beginnings of cable network news, right? So there was that honest journalism, that truly that fourth estate, as they call it, the fourth branch of government, trying to keep everybody in check. That you had to go to school and learn the ethics of good reporting, what you need to be able to verify information, how to bring that information to light properly without, defamation and libel. Right. The advent of the internet kind of changed that. Obviously, you and I went to radio school. We never had a radio show, but here we are, longtime podcasters, just
right.
because of the internet, right?
Right.
So I think while there isn't a conscious decision to abandon journalism, there is most certainly a decision to get headlines and ratings. So
this story I feel like it would get ratings. I think there are women out there that want to hear about the story and get it out there. Like, that's what's so confusing to me, is this isn't a story that seems like something that you would want to hide from the American public view. This seems like something that the morning news, like, Adrian and I watch the CBS morning news, which it just happens to be what's on while we're getting ready for work in the morning in the background. They talk about all different kinds of subjects that we talk about here. I find them talking about there. This is not there. I haven't heard anything. They haven't done a single story on Iran, and it doesn't make sense, because it feels like when I hear these stories, they would resonate with the American people to say, wow, holy shit, that is fucking awful. Maybe we should do, but what then we know about it, but what do we do about it? Right? Like, I don't know.
Who's
Is it
running those
okay?
newsrooms?
Maybe I'm missing it. Adrian's saying they do talk about Iran.
If they do,
Maybe I missed them.
And I don't mean to correct you in this situation, but it's important to say it the
Way
right way at this
before I
point.
get up. Okay, that might be why.
It's Iran.
Iran.
So we have to start, if we're going to respect the situation, we have to say it the right way. Just the same way back in the Advent or the last February when Russia invaded Ukraine, everybody thought it was Kiev, right? That's right. The
Fair
Russian way. Yeah, that's a Russian way to say it. So we have to, it's Iran, right? So it is, how many women are running those newsrooms, or the editors for the websites, or the CEOs of major media companies, and not only CEOs, then the executives underneath them, right? Not to be crude, but they probably have a token female, just like they have a token minority, because they can say then they have that voice represented. But really, is that voice represented? No. You've seen the backlash of the reporting about Black Lives Matters and any sort of Black African American activism, and the backlash that comes about. So this all goes into advertising revenue. Like like,
but you can also play it to that side by saying, "Look at these horrible Muslims." Like, you know what I mean. You could play that card. Look at these Muslims that are oppressing women. Like, you could play that to both sides. It just seems like there should be more, and this doesn't seem like a story that should be buried, and yet here we are now, weeks in, and it still feels buried.
The first three stories that I found that we wanted to talk about are all from The Guardian, which is, a longtime friend of the show. Fantastic, independent, UK-based, used to be a newspaper, and now it's just a really good website. And the first story, again, you got to think about what, the American public like, and what the American media advertisers focus in on, right? We know those demographics, the 19 to 45, 43-year-olds. Do they care about little girls in Iran? No, but we do, including one that was apparently just murdered by security services in her classroom for not singing what basically amounted to the national anthem. She was 16 years old. And not only was she beaten, there was a whole classroom that refused. And a bunch of dudes with what I could just, in my mind's eye, imagine full riot gear, masks covering their faces, because Lord knows their identity be exposed. So their sisters and daughters and mothers and aunts can't see the violence that they're perpetrating. But yes, of course, look at this line. Come on, this is straight out of, rip it right out of the authoritarian book of what to say when you get caught doing something. Iranian officials denied that its security forces were responsible, and after her death sparked outrage. They had her uncle appear on state TV and say she died from a heart attack, of a congenital defect of her heart.
That's, come on. Come on.
And they probably did with guns pointed at the dude's head just off a camera, or pointed right at his wife or daughter. Let's for as much as we've talked about the horrors and brutality that goes on in Russia and maybe other places, we certainly haven't saw his head off. Sure, more likely family, direct loved ones, right? His children or something. We're not, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that dark room in a building that nobody's ever known to exist before, half a mile or 45 minutes outside the city, and the horrors that occur. Let's just jump to the second story, because there's a lot to cover here, and we have to talk about this stuff. there was an Iranian competitive climber. Did you hear about this? Who didn't have her hijab on when she climbed in South Korea competitively?
Okay.
She's a member of the Iranian wall climbing. This is an Olympic sport.
Who knows?
All right, okay, cool. I guess it'd have to be at this point because you're kind of running out of things that pique people's interests. I mean,
right.
there might be a handful of people that listen to this show that are interested in the javelin, but at some point that kind of gets a little old, right? There's a lot there's a lot of weird stuff surrounding this particular athlete. Elnaz Rakabi. I'm not exactly sure, but she basically didn't wear her hijab in a climbing competition in South Korea, and of course, this is against the morality police because, according to them, you must always, no matter where you are, if you're Iranian, a female, Muslim female, and I'm sure just females in general, you have to wear your hijab to show your piety to your religion. You have to show your purity and your faith and your reverence for that.
Jesus.
Man, I don't know what they have to do to do that. Apparently, beat up girls in schools. I'm just guessing right now based on the evidence. So this Iranian athlete participates in this competition without her hijab in a 2-minute interview, state broadcasters inside the airport. And she was met at this airport with a throng of fans, people giving her flowers, chanting her name. Hijab, thank you. She was greeted like an American or a Canadian coming out of the plane with the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's all those weird fans because this plane landed at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And there were just throes of people there waiting for her. And of course, apparently, Iranian security forces, because she put this video that was posted on Instagram, but nobody's really sure if it was coerced or not. This is a quote from her. Because I was busy putting on my shoes and my gear, it caused me to forget to put on my hijab. And then I went to compete, she said, adding, I came back to Iran with peace of mind, although I had a lot of tension and stress. But so far, thank God, nothing has happened.
That sounds like a forced statement or something that was written for you. Yes.
She left the airport in a van heading for unknown destination.
Oh, good. I bet you.
In an ominous sign, her brother was summoned to an intelligence agency office. And then, because there's such good people, the International Olympic Committee said it had held a joint meeting with the International Federation of Climbing. Time out. You just buried the lead here, Lee. There's an International Federation of sport climbing.
Yeah. Who knew? Oh. And why did we? And who knew that we even needed such a thing?
What are those meetings like?
I bet they're fucking.
It's a lot of granola and like aloe juice.
Seriously, and they're all talking about CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. And climbing gear and REI and
They all love the movie Cliffhanger.
All of them. They all know that guy too.
Granola and aloe juice.
Yeah, well, did I not hit it on the head?
It's a whole lot of kombucha.
It is a lot of kombucha.
Who drinks kombucha? That's just gross.
It's chalk dust and Red Bull. Everybody's got. All right, we kind of nailed what a climbing federation is.
Yeah,
like. International.
An international federation of sport climbing meeting. It sounds more fun than we thought.
Oh, no. Jared, what you have to know about Gigi. I'm not telling anything that's not a secret or any insider dirt, although I could for the right price. Right. Gigi hates Jared Leto. Now, you may say you're like, yeah, I hate Jared Leto. No,
burning hatred. Yeah.
It's not even it's a passion. It is a heated passion of hatred that I don't know. I don't know what could quench
What
it.
did Jared Leto do to you, Gigi?
He's just a mess. I mean, let's just face it.
Right.
Like, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind if Jared Leto got,
Yeah,
shipped off.
Wiley knows that she badly wanted him to win the punchable thing.
Absolutely. All right, so we've talked a lot about Iran, right? And now you mentioned that they were in the news. They're supplying kamikaze drones and other weapons and training to Russia. So now we've, damn it, Ben, there are some pretty clear battle lines being drawn, right? Iran's getting involved with the Russia thing now, and that ties into Israel, because now, like, what does Israel do? Because Iran's helping Russia, but Iran and Israel got their thing. So, like, the world politics is getting very, 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 very much like a world war. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. In fact, my third favorite Fiona, Dr. Fiona Hill. We have a fantastic article coming up from her, and we're going to kind of break down a little bit more about this. I'm going to point you in that direction to read the rest. But I wanted to talk about this because our supposed allies in Saudi Arabia, the same people that refuse to like cut or refuse to increase or like hold steady oil production and actually cut oil production, right?
Yeah.
We talked about them using oil as a weapon.
So the same ones that, just to refresh my memory, those are the same ones that we sold billions of dollars worth of weapons to, correct?
Yes, the same ones that we know murdered a U.S. resident in cold blood, butchered.
Journalist, right?
Journalist, yes, that was exposing. Yeah.
We want to make sure we're still talking about the same Saudi Arabia. I don't know if there's like two different Saudi Arabias or what, but
talk about breaking story. Like, there's
not.
a new Saudi Arabia.
I guess it's the same Saudi Arabia, wildly enough.
Well, at least there's not two of them, because those guys seem like dicks. Saudi Arabia sentences a U.S. citizen to 16 years in prison over a tweet. Guess where this guy tweeted from?
Not Saudi Arabia.
U.S., and I believe it was Oklahoma. He just happened to be visiting Saudi Arabia, and they nabbed him for a tweet that was critical. Okay, he was a dual.
Whoa! For real?
Mm-hmm. Now, in Alamati, I'm sorry, it's Florida. In Alamati's case, okay, so let me back up. Saad Ibrahim Alamati, 72, a dual U.S. Saudi national, was arrested in November 2021 upon landing in Riyadh for what was supposed to be a 2-week stay in his native country for work and personal trip. The case is now the second known incident of a Saudi who is living abroad being arrested upon their return for using social media. Salam al-Sahib, a Saudi student living in UK attending Leeds University, was sentenced to 34 years in prison for having a Twitter account and following and retweeting dissidents and activists. She was arrested and convicted after returning home for a holiday. In Al-Amadi's case, prosecutors focused on 14 tweets that the American published over a 7-year period while living in Florida, including posts that referenced Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post columnist who was murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018.
Wow. I mean, that the dual citizen thing makes it slightly less shocking. It would have been, but that's the next step, though. The next step is literally they know that they look at the flight logs of people, of American citizens that are flying into Saudi Arabia for vacation, and they're doing checks on their social media, and they start arresting like American citizens in Saudi Arabia for anti-Saudi posts while they lived in the United States. Like, that's the next step where this goes, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, we don't talk about these things because they're joyous and they're a fun thing to talk about. They're actually quite depressing to talk about, aren't they? Yeah. But they serve as a warning for what could happen and what actually kind of is kind of primed to happen. if and we haven't talked about this enough, and we're going to be ramping up our talk about voting, because this is what happens when you don't vote, and because the people who are these level of, because there's levels of dickhead, right? And you get to a certain level of dickhead, and it's like the 33rd degree of masonry, right? And that's when you become something else, right? You become a fuckwad, right? And then there's levels of fuckwadery, right? And and then you go to douchebag level, right? Like, and we're talking about ultra G13 classified level douchebaggery that is being it's wolves on the doorstep of the fort. It's real. There are plenty of polls now, and we shouldn't pay attention to polls as far as like exit polls and what people are going to vote. There are interesting stories of polls about apathy, about voting. And
dude, I saw. I sent this. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but I shot a photo off of the CBS Morning News that I was watching the other day, because this was not great. It's a poll of registered voters, the percentage who will say they definitely will vote in this upcoming election, and they break it down by age group. Ages 18 to 29 was 38%.
those are the people we need to vote.
Yeah, because here's why, even more so. Age 30 to 44, 55% say they intend to vote.
Mm.
Ages 45 to 64, 82% say they intend to vote. Gets better. 65 plus, 89% of registered voters polled say they intend to vote.
Well, I mean, that's
this spells it out
right
right there what you're talking about. The older generations, that our grandparents, who we know don't have the best political views,
pretty
right?
racist.
They're mostly
pretty misogynist.
Racist. They're mostly racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. Anything out of the ordinary that isn't straight white male is really out of their comfort level. Yeah. Those are the people that are voting to put people onto school boards, to put people onto city councils, on city boards, into powerful positions within your community. The oldest of your community are the
ones Dead F and Brooks. It is. It's a day trip for the seniors. It
gets them out of the house, right?
But okay, so that trickles down, right? So while we joke about that, that's part of the problem, right? Is that being able to vote and the method of voting, it's actually very difficult, and it's not necessarily getting easier especially in a couple of the red states in the South and Southwest. They're making it the idea of voting by mail is obviously this point of contention for people who breathe through their mouths. It is the idea of early voting, or just having a week or a day off, for God's sakes, especially for generations. And I'm talking about what was it, 18 to 26 or 19 those people that
18 to 29, I think it was
18 to 20, that are legitimately working 2 to 3 jobs just to make it, just to pay rent and go to school. Like, you're asking them to go wait in a line to go
over double the amount of people. 38% to 89% is the difference between 65 and older and 29 and younger who intend to vote.
And when that generation grew up with the internet, and especially now the 18 to 29, they grew up with electronic devices in their hands. To them, going and even going somewhere else to punch a screen for data makes no sense to them whatsoever. For all of us older than that, we have to reckon with this, that this is their reality. Mm-hmm. This is their life. This is the world we're handing off to them. We had a hand in creating this world.
Yeah.
We made this electronic digital world. There are a ton of aspects of our society that have not caught up. And part of the reason is this stubbornness to hold on to this idea that you have to go and vote somewhere else.
Well, because if not, it might that it might get compromised. You might go into the computer and change your vote, and ooh, boogeyman. And it's like, no, dude, like we have the capabilities to protect that information. We bank online. Okay, there isn't any
No
more
problems doing
sensitive
that, right?
information than your banking information. It
401k.
is guarded heavily. It is tracked heavily. It is made sure there are many levels of security to ensure that someone cannot easily breach your banking information. If we can bank online, you're exactly right. There is absolutely no reason we cannot vote online securely.
Well,
It's
we do.
insane.
We do it for jury duty.
Yes.
You get that. You get time off for jury duty, right? You get all right. Nobody wants to do jury duty.
Yeah, election day should be a holiday. Yeah,
it's a fascinating process, and it is part of your democratic duty. That is one of the few asks of the government for your freedom, that you participate in the system of justice that we try to uphold in our Constitution, a jury of our peers. Why can't we? I have a lottery, and okay, during this week, you're guaranteed, and you have to be paid for by your employer 4 hours, half a day, to go vote. Maybe not the whole day, because that becomes like, all right, how much time do you really need to go vote?
Again, why do we even have to go to that? That's still compromising for no reason on something that we shouldn't be compromising on. In-person voting, we don't need it.
In this aspect, I will say, Gigi was voting from home and was filling out her ballot. And you're right. She had an opportunity to look up the candidates, go to several different websites that were rating the judges, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all those down ballot voters that you have to you're just like, you're basically voting for your team.
Correct.
Right. But maybe some of those teammates aren't so good. Right. That Democratic guy might have an alarming rate of dismissals in favor of police in situations that like put people away that, I don't know, might not look like us.
Right.
But continue to get the votes or whatnot, because people just keep going, well, I don't know this guy. Fuck, I'm just
he's a Democrat or he's a Republican.
Right. I'm voting for Beto, and I'm voting for Biden or whatever. I don't know who these people are. Vote blue.
Mm-hmm.
So it also gives people a chance to inform themselves, because we're certainly not doing it leading up to it. And I don't know anybody that's paying attention to any kind of like, it's like states, obviously president, right? State senator, anything Congress, governor. And that's where the interest really dropped, stops. You don't care. Secretary of State, comptroller, treasurer,
sheriff,
everybody's like, we need time. But again, part of the symptom of the rat race, as they call it, is that we don't have that kind of time, right? People got to work, grind.
By the way, since we're on the voting thing, there was a story.
They have to be Irish.
This morning, I think it was this morning, on the CBS Morning News, they did a story where Ron DeSantis has that fucking voting police force, right? That voting enforcement force, and they arrested people that were either committed a murder or a sex crime, right? So they weren't eligible to vote, because in Florida, when you're released from prison, you are actually given the right to vote back. But in this case, these people were sent voting registration cards. They were sent cards saying, and so they believed that they were allowed to vote, because why would the government fuck up and send me something that wasn't supposed to be sent to me? So they went ahead and voted. And now it was something like 4 years ago they voted. And now they're arresting these people. And there's like these cameras where these people are like, are you fucking serious? Like, You're arresting me for something I did 4 years ago, and you guys sent me a card saying I could do it, but it's all more theatrics. And later that day, they showed that DeSantis was at a press conference and he was touting how his voter fraud enforcement force caught another few people that were voting improperly.
Stop. SS. Secret
I
police.
mean, come on. Come on. I mean, it was as the story was starting, Adrian was like, this story is going to infuriate you. And by the end of it, I was like, yep, I am infuriated. Yeah. So it's maddening that but I bring that story up to say the idea that even if they had committed murder or a sex crime, they still should be allowed to vote on their local elections. These are the people that govern over them, regardless of whatever crime they committed. They should still, no matter what your situation is. I'm a believer that even if you aren't a legal citizen, if you live in a community, you should be able to vote on who runs that community. That's how liberal I am about the idea. I think everybody should be allowed to vote. There should be no restrictions other than maybe
none.
age.
I was about to ask you, like, what
Maybe
is there a crime? Is there a crime?
I don't think there's a crime that you could commit that would say that you are no longer allowed of say in who governs over you. Like,
so let's say
Timothy
Timothy McVeigh, who blew up the Oklahoma
Sure.
federal building, right? Killed I think almost 100 people. Damaged so much, and I think executed him probably less than a year later, right? If they said life in prison for him,
I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be allowed to vote, right? Because he's still an American citizen. He's still living under the rules of of an elected official. Why shouldn't he still have a say? Yes, what he did was terrible, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Okay.
But
Adrian has actually Adrian and Gigi have interesting, like, there should be some limits, right? I think maybe not a crime against your fellow man, but I think a crime against the country should qualify.
Okay, I can listen to that, and I can also voter fraud makes sense, right? That's like if you misuse a gun, you should have your right to have a gun taken away, right? Like, so I can agree with that. Like, if you do some sort of voter fraud where you're voting for dead people, in dead people's names and some shit like that, then yes, you're misusing your right, and that should be revoked. But a crime that has nothing to do with voting, I don't see how that should eliminate your right to vote. At the same time, if it's a right, it can't be taken from you. I mean, that's the whole thing of a right, is that it can't be taken. That's the whole thing with the Second Amendment too. It's like, if you're going to do it, everybody should get to do it. If you're a felon, you should still get to own a gun. Why not? You're still an American citizen, right? And it is your right under the Second Amendment to own a gun. Now, if you're going to be a literalist, that's what you got. You got to be literal about it. You got to say everybody, no matter what. Now, I can understand wanting to put some restrictions on these things, but they're no longer rights; they're privileges. And we have to understand. We got to stop calling them rights, because they're not. A right can't be taken from you. It's like civil rights. Those are things that those can't be taken back. And
I think Stanhope had a really good bit. Doug Stanhope, when he was talking about the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, he's like, "You didn't give me that right.
Right.
Like, I was born with the ability to talk. Like, what I can, whatever my brain formulates, like, you can't, like, and." He's trying to make like 2 or 3 different points in the bit, and I'm not eloquent enough right now to kind of like get into that.
But the point you're making is clear.
In that, like, yes, there are certain things that like are I guess illegal rights, and there are some things that are just like not necessarily human
God
rights.
given, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not saying I believe in God, but it's the idea that these are God given, that no one gives them to you. You're just born with them. You know,
Right.
those are the rights. I have a right to live my life the way that I want to, as long as I am not hurting anyone else, right? Like those types. Yeah.
Oh, CJ, I'd like to hear why you're ready to flip a table over this, because is that a good thing? Are you in disagreement? Because
Yeah, I
I
get it. That my idea is extreme to just say fuck it, everyone gets the vote. I get it. God given
it's not
ability.
even God-given abilities, right? I think we've progressed enough, but it is a point understood, that we've progressed enough in as a species, right? And that's a problem, because people can't wrap their head around that. It there are like certain things that we should just all have, right?
Mhm.
And that's like the Maslow's pyramid, right? We should all have shelter, food, clothing, right? Those are, if there are rights,
Mhm.
those should be the three, the first
Sure.
very three, at the very least. If you are alive on this planet, you have access to shelter, clothing, and food, water, right?
Mhm.
Next step, education. Next step, whatever, right? But industry, whatever, however that kind of pathway develops.
Right.
But if
It
we're
just
if we're
grows
going to
from
talk about rights, freedom of speech, to own a gun, like, that's all pretty privileged shit to be talking about for a bunch of slave owners.
right. Because we don't look at shelter and food or clothing. We don't look at those things as rights the same way that we look at Second Amendment gun possession and hold it so dear and fervently.
Like Jesus Christ had like there's a shotgun, and I'm sure there's an oil painting of Jesus Christ holding a shotgun with a bandolier of ammo belt around, like attack dogs next to him, with an eagle soaring, right next to the Elvis painting on a mantle in many a home, in certain demographics. I'm sure of it,
But it
but
doesn't exist. But is that wasn't real.
it wasn't the
Uh,
point.
yeah, voting is an important thing, and for a number of different reasons. But yeah, what's a right and what's not is one of those debates that you could debate for hours. And everyone has a different point, and some of them, there's I'm not 100% right in the way I'm looking at it, and I get it. I just like to look at it from a different perspective, but yeah, there should be some limitations, yeah, but where do you draw that line? That's always the problem. Where's the line?
It it makes more sense, if you look at it, like, you do have to put some structure around certain things,
Mm-hmm.
because left to just run wild, that's not a society, right?
Imagine if we cared about everyone having food and shelter and clothing with the same passion that we do Second Amendment and gun rights.
Sports.
Our sports.
Sports.
How different of a society would we be if we cared about those things on that same level?
We'd be better at sports, because the people who don't have access to the training, or access to, like, the exposure to the sport, or resources to even afford a stick and a ball, or a hoop and a ball. Yeah, like, same thing. We'd have better doctors, we'd have better scientists, we'd have better politicians, we'd have better everything. Look, a rising tide floats all the boats, right?
Yeah.
Everybody gradually rises up, and I'm tired of this idea that, like, some people should and some people shouldn't. You have to pay your dues in the way that I understand paying the dues, in order to get to where I think it becomes that situation. And largely, these are people that are like, hey, I got into the union because my dad was in the union, but you have to pay your dues. It's that
Right.
hypocrisy, right? But that's what we call privilege.
Yep.
That's what we call misunderstood or not understood privilege.
Yeah.
Uh,
We
uh,
drifted for a minute there, but let's
maybe
get
a
back
bit.
to it.
Hey, look, folks, our president's about to release 15 million barrels of oil from our strategic reserves to help try to offset gas prices. Can't say he's not trying, but that's less than what we consume in one day.
Yes.
So
Here's the thing. I'm glad that you didn't skip over this because this is something that has annoyed the shit out of me that's been going on social media regarding this topic. You have people like Jim Jordan and other government officials on their social media accounts saying we wouldn't have to rely on Saudi Arabia and ask Saudi Arabia to not reduce production if Biden would just let American oil companies drill more or go back to drilling, which is a lie. That Biden has nothing to do with why these oil companies are not drilling. They have open leases. They have the ability. They have
hundreds.
There's a great video that Kim Porter, I believe I may be saying the wrong first name, but she's a representative from California. She had a great thing she did where she talked about a grain of rice was 1 acre of land that oil companies had currently available to them to drill on. And she opened up the back of a minivan and there was like 6 or 7 100-pound bags of rice. And she said, this represents the amount of acreage that oil companies currently have available to them for drilling, but they are not drilling. Katie Porter, that's what
Thank
it is.
you. Katie Porter is awesome.
Amazing.
Katie Porter is awesome.
Yes, she's on a number
Thank
of
you,
different
Redbox.
Yes, thank you. And she had a great video talking about it. Has nothing to do with the government not allowing American oil companies to drill or not to drill. It is 100% Wall Street and big investors in these oil companies wanting a return on their investment. And this is not something that the oil companies are even hiding. If you look at it, there are plenty of business insider and business publications that have spoken with the CEOs of these oil companies, and they are saying it, being quoted. They are not shy. Investors want a return on their investment, and this is an opportunity. The opportunity presented itself for them to raise prices. We will pay them. They don't want Wall Street, and investors do not want oil companies drilling. It is coming from their investors, not Joe Biden.
It costs money to set. It costs a lot of money to set up a drilling operation. I want to point you hit every point very succinctly. And here it is in this article from the AP, the paragraph. The hard math for Biden is that oil production has yet to return to its pre-pandemic level of roughly 13 million barrels a day. It's about 1 million barrels shy of that level. The oil industry would like the administration to open up more federal lands for drilling, approve pipeline construction, and reverse its recent changes to raise corporate taxes. Right there, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to know anything else. They are holding us hostage with energy prices to get a lower tax rate and to basically take up more of, I mean, when I say our land, I use it in that sense that it's not really ours, but it's our land, and I'd rather have it be our land than ExxonMobil or Shell, right? These are federal lands, and a lot of them are actually like Native American First Nation people's lands that are oil rich, and not only oil rich, there are other resources, uranium, aluminum, other iron. There are other resources on those lands that
natural gas as well.
Natural gas, like there, and Shell will tell you like we're not interested in those types. They're not telling you that they have a dozen subsidiaries and a dozen different companies that are part of their corporate umbrella that do take a very strong interest in those other resources and minerals.
It is a simple supply and demand situation. Investors want there to be a lower supply so there is a higher demand and they can charge more money for the product and they get a bigger return on their investment. It is that this isn't a secret. And so that's why it's so disingenuous and bold-faced lying to see sitting senators and sitting congresspeople putting on their social media out to their followers this bullshit narrative that it's Biden that is stopping these oil companies from drilling.
You know, if Biden would have approved that pipeline,
that Keystone pipeline, bullshit.
That pipeline that only transported oil from Canadian oil sands to Louisiana port to be exported to other countries? You mean that pipeline that's supposed to help us?
Right.
It's very.
They didn't understand the basics of the keys. All they heard was a pipeline was shut down by Biden,
right?
And it's
well, I mean,
so
you had people like Ted Cruz coming out and telling them like because of this they're gonna and those are the headlines that like get
right, and they believe those people because why wouldn't he? But he's an elected official. Certainly, he would know, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, he's purposely misleading you because the whole game is to blame everything on Joe Biden. Anything bad is Joe Biden's fault. Anything good had nothing to do with him. That's the game that they are playing. It does not matter what it is. It does not matter what it is. They are on the opposite side of whatever Joe Biden's doing, whether good or bad. If it's good, we're ignoring it. If it's bad, we're highlighting. That's their whole agenda.
That's it. It's a platform of fear and grievance, and that's kind of
fear
all it
and
is.
Grievance. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That's my first metal album's name too. The band name coming up. We're gonna have to kind of speed through because we've kind of parked on a bunch of different very important stories. There's no doubt, and the conversation has been nothing but superb. A couple of other things. I promised you a story about my third favorite Fiona, and I know Dad F and Brooks mentioned like, what about like the hippo Fiona? That my first favorite Fiona is probably the one that's sitting right outside this door that can hear my voice and be like, why can't I see Michael? I can hear him talking. He's saying my voice. That's exactly what the dog Fiona is thinking right now. The second favorite Fiona in my life is, of course, the hippo from the Cincinnati Zoo. Fiona, Fritz, and BB and Tucker. They call it a bloat. That's what they call a family of hippos. Is called a bloat.
That's even better,
right? It's just a bloat of hippos over there just hanging out. And now, I guess Fritz has. I guess the other family members, because I guess they have to be careful with like introducing babies into the bloat because it might not go well.
Because fucking hippos are crazy psycho animals.
So they've been slowly introducing and monitoring and regulating the interactions between first Fritz and Fiona and then Fritz and Tucker, her dad. And now they've gotten to the point where now the whole bloat is hanging out in Hippo Cove, as they call it in the Cincinnati Zoo.
I will now be referring to my PMS as a family of hippos.
It's true.
Oh, man. Speaking of Fionas,
my third favorite Fiona is Dr. Fiona Hill. We're not going to have a whole lot of time to talk about this, but this is certainly worth your attention. And gosh, if there were ever an expert on Russian affairs with Russian history and a keen insight to the inner workings of the highest levels of Russian government and Vladimir Putin, it is this woman. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I've got a crush on her because like she's that pointed and that informed about Vladimir Putin. And we've talked about like some of his motivations, some of his like what is Vladimir Putin, right? She has very long and detailed answers. I know I kind of wanted to get into this a little bit. We're kind of running short on time. We never really do that here on the show, but I think we might come back to this one and make it a big. And I actually might give everybody homework for the first time ever on Topic Thunder. You folks,
I barely did homework in high school, man. So
well, I actually I'm going to do it. So next week, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Welcome back to Topic Thunder. We're going to have a big, and we're going to discuss this article. All right.
Okay.
So I would like for everybody that would like to and participate. Homework. Yeah, from a teacher. Go freaking figure. It's
yeah,
good to turn the tables.
In our audience, they're like, wait a minute, we're the ones that's supposed to be given the homework,
right? I want everybody to read this story and come back with their thoughts and see not only if this changes anything about your opinion of the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, Russia versus the world kind of thing, but also the way we as Westerners take in information and our point of view versus which you'll learn by reading the article, a very different point of view about the world and world affairs and world history. So it is a politico.com a news story.
you know what we'll do? We should put it on we should put a link to it on the Topic Thunder Facebook page.
I'm gonna throw it. I think I can put something in it. I can make a chat, right? Shit, no.
You could private chat it to me, but that doesn't do anything for everybody else.
No, it really.
So we'll just put the link on the Facebook page, and that's where everybody can.
Yes, so we'll put it on the actual Topic Thunder Facebook page. I'll put it out there on my personal Facebook page, and again, we'll just. I kind of like the idea of the big then becoming maybe homework, and everybody kind of reading up on the same thing and seeing the different angles and directions people come from with the kind of the same material, because we usually don't forecast what we're talking about on the show. So that might be kind of fun. So we'll do that. So a first here on Topic Thunder, and we're happy to have everybody along for the ride. So hey, we were talking about what Vladimir Putin and his quasi special military operation in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really go good for the former head of the mobilization campaign that they tried to run, where they wanted 300,000 Russian men to basically get drafted into the military, because the person that was in charge of it, Ben, this might surprise you, he's dead.
Oh.
Huh. Lieutenant Colonel Roman Melnyk, suspicious death comes after a spat of attacks on mobilization offices across Russia. His body was discovered near the fence of his home in a village in Primorsky region. That's a new one. By the fence. So we're pretty used to on the show here hearing about them falling out of windows, but while falling, shot, stabbed, hung, razor bladed, poisoned, irradiated themselves before landing. We're very used to that here as the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Being found near the fence, I find it to be a very interesting detail to be included. By the fence.
Some reports claim he died from hanging.
Well, I guess there's better ways to go. There's also worse ways to go. The next story, Ben, actually, I forgot to tell you in the pre-show meeting that we spent talking about our fantasy football league. It is a paid website, so we're going to skip that one until I can find a better story. And in fact, why don't we just skip ahead to the story that begins with Wobble?
Got it.
Not the line dance song, but a wobble in a black hole.
Uh-oh.
And when scientists and astronomers, this is not actually that yet. Oh no, we're not quite there yet.
Oh, go good.
Oh yes. Oh yes. The wobbling black hole is the most extreme example ever detected. When scientists use the word extreme, I cannot understate that they mean it, and not just in like
They're not kidding.
they're not. It's just like it's
It
not
isn't
a catchphrase.
hyperbole,
It's
right?
not something you put on an advertisement for extreme energy.
Right.
It's not like that.
Do not think that they are like overselling it.
When they say extreme, they talk about what they call a binary black hole system, which is two black holes orbiting in each other in basically a dance of death. One of the black holes, 40 times bigger than our sun, is likely the fastest spinning black hole to be found through gravitational waves. Now, how much faster do you think that is spinning, Ben?
Faster than like us?
I believe the comparison is faster to the I gotta find it here really quick. It's been what's faster than the previously known fastest and strongest a black hole known to
So
record.
how many times more is this one? 100 times.
10 billion
Oh,
times. So I just referenced the headline again. When they say extreme, they literally just found a black hole that's spinning 10 times and emitting 10 billion times the energy previously measured.
1 billion is a lot.
1 billion is plenty.
10 billion is a fuck.
It's extreme.
It is an extreme fuck ton. Yeah.
Let's talk about extremes. Let's talk about the latest picture from the James Webb Telescope, which we covered.
We've talked about this, how they got all those cool pictures.
We covered the launch, we covered the deployment, we covered the very first picture of it, and the gosh darn thing has now taken a picture of probably one of the more famous ever taken by the previously best telescope that we've ever had. If you scroll down, there's a comparison between what we now know from the Horsehead Nebula, from the Hubble to the Webb. This story is brought to us by the BBC, so it's under their news and science page. So if you really wanted to see and zoom in, folks, the detail on the left is pretty cool. And when the Hubble telescope put that out there, we were like, holy shit. We call those the pillars of creation. And then you look at the right and you see what 30 to 40 years of scientific progress and technological progress brings us. You can see through the clouds now. Look at all of those other stars. Oh, wait, that's right. Those aren't stars in the background. Those are fucking galaxies in the background, because stars are too small to show up in a picture that big. Those pillars are literally 200 light years long.
Oh shit.
Let's refresh our memories. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. And those pillars are 200 million light years long.
Oh my God. That is like,
you can't wrap your head around that.
You can't.
You
can't wrap it around
hallucinogens. That's the only way.
Yes.
That's the only way. And that's when they tell you you're never the same. You're never the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can finally wrap your head around what fucking 100 million or 10 billion is.
Right. And it never comes back the way the way you went into the experience, right?
No.
It never comes back the way you kind of entered the experience. So I wanted to do extremes, right? So that's ginormous.
Right. The Grand Canyon is a ditch in comparison.
Oh, please. Oh my God, I've been to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, well, let's talk about the exact opposite, Ben.
Okay.
Apparently the Nikon Small World competition went down. I wasn't invited.
Yeah, apparently they didn't let me know.
We didn't get press passes. But these are microscopic photographs taken of things that like you wouldn't think, but when you see them, you're either really awed by them or terrified.
Sure.
So what you're looking at is that one right there is the first place. That's that hand you saw. If you scroll back up, that is the hand of a Madagascar giant day gecko embryo. Pretty cool. If you keep scrolling, I'll read them off because it's kind of tiny. The second place winner is breast tissue showing cells responsible for human milk production. That's what you're literally looking at, like cells in the human body.
Holy shit.
Yep. The next one. This one's actually pretty cool. It's the third place winner. It's an adult mouse's intestines showing its blood network. That's what intestines look like. And the next one, this is a slime mold. Pretty sure I had that in college. Next one. This is the extinguished wick of a candle showing particles of carbon being released.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
That's
pretty crazy still.
Pretty neat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. This is
that's terrifying.
Tiger beetle with the clamps down on a fly.
Oh yeah.
There's two creatures there.
His eye is like a basketball that's been deflated.
Oh yeah, right. There's clamps.
There's clamps from another fucking animal.
Insect. Oof.
Ugh.
These are crypt cells from a human colon.
Those look like they're drawn with crayon.
They're like flowers, like like somebody like
a 7-year-old girl doodled that on her trapper keeper.
This is what lilies look like in a pond. This next picture is a cross section of dune grass.
Wow. Okay. Like little skulls.
Right? Little faces.
Like little like skull faces in there. That's weird.
This next one's pretty cool.
Whoa.
This is the motor area of a brain of a genetically modified mouse after suffering a brain injury. I don't know what all that means.
Jesus. Okay.
But if you're telling me those are the neurons and we're literally seeing the synapses and the connections of brain tissue right there, that's
really fucking incredible.
Mind-blowing. Ooh.
Oh my God.
Hey, this next one. Yeah, this is a bold jumping spider.
Nope.
Hello.
That's a whole lot of nope.
Hello. Oh boy, this next one. Human cells in different stages of mitosis. So this is literally mitosis is the cloning of cells, the separation and growing of cells, right? This is the birth of life as we kind of know it. Fascinating. This next one.
How did that not win?
How does this one not win? If you look at that picture, you're thinking like, that's
dragon.
Right. That's going to be cool. Like that's going to be on Game of Thrones or House of Dragons, whatever, right? That's the face of an ant.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's what's coming to fuck up your picnic. This next one is a hibiscus flower.
Just up close.
It's just cool, man. It's just cool. We talk about space all the time, but this is like inner space. These are amino acid crystals. That's that's in your whey protein powder.
Huh.
Amino acid crystals. This one is a butterfly egg.
Oh wow, looks like a golf ball.
You can see it though, but you can see it if you look like center, like high. Yeah, look at that. There is a structure right in there. There is like a little like that. That's the little thing.
Wow.
That's the little life inside the egg. This one is the larva of a sea anemone.
Nope.
It's just like a little like Nintendo villain.
Yeah, it does look like a Mario Brothers.
Yeah, this is what I jump on to get a coin or whatever. Moss spore. I'm not sure where this whole segment's going, by the way. The next one's a 2-month-old starfish. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that is pretty neat.
This is a freshwater midge larva. Not sure what that is either.
The colors is crazy.
Oh yeah, right. An etch tube in Brazilian quartz. So basically like a little like air tube inside a piece of like solid quartz.
Hmm.
And that's it.
That's
Those
pretty
were
cool.
the photos captured that were at least in competition for the best micro photograph. Micro worlds, right? We talk about the macro world all the time, but like there's more out there, right? Let's blow through we're gonna do this, Ben, before we get to the lightning round, which I know you're all waiting for.
Mhm.
We're gonna blow through the rest of these because gosh darn it, these are sent in by actual listeners. This next one is sent in by our very own Ryan Hansen, and it's a father's son out fishing off the Jersey shore when they got the shock of a lifetime. This is pretty scary.
Oh my god, that is terrifying.
That whale did it on purpose too.
What? No!
I'd be saying the same thing.
You got your fish out?
He still
Dude,
got
like,
his fucking yeah. He didn't let go.
But if that fucking I mean, if the timing was just different and wrong, I
got
think
the video.
that whale could have taken that boat under.
Oh please, that destroyed the boat. I mean,
What? No! You got your fish out?
Incredible.
so speaking of things in the sea, this next story was sent to us by our very own Tipton Moscow. Have you ever seen the movie The Meg? It's on the telly all the time. Gigi always tries to zero in on it. It's one of those Jason Statham movies, right? It's about this ginormous shark.
Dude, Megalodon is the scariest thing that has ever existed on this planet. Tipton Moscow knows that this is incredible.
There's in the sea, there's nothing more terrifying. We could talk about the ginormous bears and tigers and all kind of shit that roam the
A
land,
Megalodon would fuck them all up.
but it's a water versus land thing, and then you can
Right, you're right. They would be out of their element.
right.
But
So
for sheer size, the Megalodon is to not be fucked with.
not to be fucked with, and it is so big and so powerful, according to this 3D model based off of the skeletons found, that it could devour an orca in a few bites.
Yeah.
It was also the fastest cruising shark to ever. Well, I mean, just it's so big. They call it a super predator. It emerged about 23 million years ago and went extinct about 2.6 million years ago. Did it? And likely due to the emergence of the great white shark. I don't know about that. Unless the great whites were hunting in packs, but they're not pack animals. So
right. And I still don't believe that a great white could fuck with a Megalodon.
no, not what they're talking about here. They don't actually give a whole bunch of size information here. Body scans.
They do. They at the beginning when they say that they may
There
have
it is.
weighed around 68 tons.
Yes, the 3D model revealed that the Megalodon was likely 52 feet long.
Yeah, they swam so fast that they went all across the. They were
not water.
They traveled all over the world.
Right?
Any body of water you could have found a Megalodon, and they dominated whatever body of water they were in. They have evidence to show that sperm whales, they would just bite the faces off of sperm whales.
These things were about, for comparison, the weight of 10 African elephants.
Swimming in the water
faster than anything.
As fast or faster than anything else is in the water. Imagine that.
They actually have a comparison of the teeth between a megalodon tooth and a great white tooth. And if that doesn't kind of show you, and enough with the water world stuff, man. It was a failed attempt at a terrible idea, but ends up actually probably being the truth of our reality in just a few short years, based on how things are going. So I guess
check this out. Check out the size of the teeth.
Kevin Costner is going to save us.
What are we talking about?
That the small one's a great white.
So you're going to tell me that the one that has this tooth here on the right is the reason that the one with the tooth on the left is extinct? I don't know about all that. I got a hard time believing that. I almost want to click the link because it was a clickable link to see like how they explain.
They believe that the megalodon's belly could have had the volume of about 2,500 gallons, or it's about 60 bathtubs. I don't know how they get to that. I don't know. But the megalodon would have used 98,000 calories every day, which is 20 times more than a great white shark. So right there, that may have been the end. Because
Okay, so here's what I'm reading. Prior research hypothesized that megalodon's decline may have coincided with the rise of great white sharks, which likely hunted the same prey as their larger cousins. So they're saying that the great white sharks ate all of the food and didn't leave, so there wasn't enough for megalodons, because megalodons had to eat a tremendous amount of food to sustain
98,000 calories a day. That's a lot of orcas.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would make sense that if the great whites were faster and maybe not faster, but more nimble, and could, I don't know, that's just
It has
fascinating.
something to do with zinc as well.
Interesting.
Zinc somehow plays a role, wildly enough.
Huh.
So to find out if great white sharks truly starved megalodon out of existence would require a more complete survey of both species' diets. Okay, so yeah, so they think that it was they basically choked them out because they ate all their food.
That sounds like the Americans and the First Nations. But hey, well, that's
right,
enough
the
about
last one.
we don't do a lot of sports here. We've done a lot of cute videos with animals and all kinds of fun stuff. But there are certain things that are just beautiful, right? And
Sure.
the synergy here between two former Cubs hitting home runs with very similar swings against the Los Angeles Dodgers just brings a smile to my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Schwarber strikes again.
Stairs rips one into the night. Deep in
Mets, Stairs, for God's sake.
and Philadelphia gets a pinch hit, 2-run shot. And the Phillies lead 7-5 in the
That's just beautiful. Just watch it again. Boom. It's like the same speed.
Dude. So Kyle Schwarber hit that ball 488 feet. It's the longest recorded home run in the playoffs. The second most, the last one was Wilson Contreras, who hit one like 6 feet further a couple of years ago. But he mashed that fucking ball. He hit that ball as hard and as far as a human basically can. Like there's
On the
not
button,
much
too.
more you can hit. So the idea that Mickey Mantle once hit a baseball 643 feet is pure bullshit. Because
Pure.
if you're telling me that Mickey Mantle hung over likely from a night of partying the night before,
Heavy.
hit a ball 643 feet.
From a guy who was throwing probably only 85 miles an hour max.
Right.
And that matters because the energy in equals some of the energy out.
Correct. There's just no fucking way. This is one I will go to my grave screaming that is one of the most bullshit Guinness Book of World Records fucking records that ever existed. There's no fucking chance that Mickey Mantle can hit a baseball further than Aaron Judge. You'll never convince me of that.
I think the deepest part of Wrigley, I think is legitimately 420 feet. So that's like a Wrigley and a half.
The longest home run hit this season was 496 feet, which is an insane home run. And you're telling me that's the longest home run that athletes in 2022 could muster when pitchers are throwing harder than they've ever thrown.
Ever.
they're in as good a shape as a player has ever been.
Ever.
And they can't get to 500 feet. Major League Baseball players in Colorado can't get to 500 feet. But Mickey Mantle in New York hit 643 feet. Fuck you, Guinness. That never happened.
Fuck you, Yankees. Because Yankee fans, because they keep perpetrating it, even though they're terrible baseball fans. Yankees fans are just terrible.
We've nerded out and talked baseball for entirely too long. We probably lost most of the audience.
Well, I mean, there's
we
only
don't bring them back.
I can only think of one way. The number one segment on the number one podcast that my father listens to, the only podcast. This is the lightning round, ladies and gentlemen, repping the tool, both Ben and I, without even talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen,
Not talking about that.
welcome to the Thunderdome. And if you don't know the rules of the lightning round, please allow me to explain them. 3 stories enter. 3 stories enter the Thunderdome. 1 gets read, and you, the people, vote on that. It is a pure democracy here, ladies and gentlemen, on Topic Thunder. And let's not dilly-dally. We've taken up enough of your time. Let's get to headline number 1. A young man became allergic to orgasms, but there's a happy ending. Headline number 2. Russian cosmonaut hits colleague with car weeks after coming back to Earth. Headline number 3. Teen hilariously squeaks after accidentally swallowing dog toy. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your 3 headlines, and we will be paying close attention to your voting patterns and in the world's most dangerous chat room, the Thunderdome. But as always, we'll make sure as you're contabulating.
Shout out to Ryan, by the way, for the callback to the nubchucks.
Nubchucks. Get your nubchucks out. We're anxiously awaiting the Ryan Hansen remix. Let me refresh your memories by reading those headlines one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, headline number 1. A young man becomes allergic to orgasms, but there's a happy ending. Headline number 2. A Russian cosmonaut hits colleague with a car weeks after coming back to Earth.
2 votes already in for number 2.
And headline number 3. Teen hilariously squeaks after accidentally swallowing a dog toy.
That's funny on its own.
Right?
Okay, that could have qualified for a video all unto itself earlier in the show.
There's layers to that one, right? There's just simple comedy.
All right, votes are pouring in. Biz voting for number 1.
Angelo's
Billy Wack
in for
voting
number
number
2. We got Billy
number
Wack.
3, and Chris.
And the movie Snatch.
Number 3. So we've got let's see,
Ma Jordan coming in. Waiting for the Ryan Hansen remix and his vote. We got Dad F and Brooks
going number 1.
We have
Box says number 2.
All right, Box is in. We're stories. Oh,
number 1 and number 1. Ma Jordan and Adrian Jordan.
There it is.
Coming at you with 1. All right, no cum sneezes. Crash Bandicoot and Human Squeakers. And he also is voting for number 1.
Well, unless there's
was he rushing over there to hit him?
Hey.
Honk.
If there's nobody else hanging out, I think we've got a winner, ladies and gentlemen. And as we
number 1 came out of nowhere late.
Yeah, So did Biz vote?
Yes, he did. He voted for number 1.
Okay, right. Let me quickly send Ben the winner so we can share it with everybody on the old teleprompter, the screen, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner, and that is headline number 1. A young man became allergic to orgasms, but there's a happy ending. Fewer than 1,000 people in the U.S. are estimated to suffer from post-orgasmic illness syndrome.
This sounds awful.
This is it. You
I don't
can't
even know
have
what
a
it
good
is.
time.
I don't even know. I don't even need to know the details to know that this sucks.
Well, you're going to hear about them. In a recent case study, doctors described the unfortunate tale of a man who developed an allergy-like reaction to his own orgasms. The bizarre and rare affliction left him unable to pursue sexual and romantic relationships. But thankfully, doctors managed to treat his problem using a simple over-the-counter antihistamine.
What?
The condition known as post-orgasmic illness syndrome, or POIS, sufferers almost always men experience symptoms similar to hay fever or flu following ejaculation, such as fatigue, itchy eyes, stuffy or runny nose, and even memory problems. These symptoms appear after every or nearly every orgasm. That's a fun thing to talk about with your dad watching your show. Usually within seconds, but sometimes up to hours later. Hey, babe, that was great. Let's go to dinner. What's wrong? I don't know. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Sweating fever.
Oh, man.
They can last anywhere from 2 to 7 days. These symptoms. Man, what if you had this and you were like, you had a sexual addiction? Man, what do you do?
You're fucked. Literally and figurative.
I hope not, because you got problems then.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was a really great show.
He broke out in hives along his forearms after orgasms. Jesus.
Not the hives, which is, that's a bad AIDS joke. And we shouldn't make AIDS jokes. Or AIDS jokes, as
yes, definitely not AIDS jokes.
No.
We can maybe get away with age jokes, but AIDS jokes, we're not getting away with those.
No, we are not. Absolutely not. We might as well just kind of like, it's going to hit the editing floor maybe, and never to be seen or heard from again, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, hey, Dad voted for number 1, so it's not his fault, but it is your fault. You wanted to hear it, so that's what you got, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you get in a democracy, and majority rules. And that's what happens here on Topic Thunder, which we appreciate your patronage. So, yes, a heartfelt thank you to everybody who contributed and made the show what it is. It was another great conversation. Just don't forget homework for next week. There's a Politico story, Politico.com. All you're going to probably put in Fiona Hill in the search bar. It's going to come up. Fascinating information from an expert in Asia, Russo-European relations. Ben, you've got some. I have some skinny
wrestling tomorrow night.
You got some wrestling. I heard you got some cool guests coming up. I don't. You don't have to spill anything, but I heard you got some cool guests.
Yeah, we got all kinds of cool stuff this week. Though it's just me and Mike. We're talking Spring Stampede 1994
from the USS Rapapa. Topic Thunder. Bye-bye.